In mid-July 2024, one of India's largest cryptocurrency exchanges quietly entered a crisis that would soon become impossible to contain. WazirX, a platform used by millions of retail traders, detected abnormal activity in one of its core wallets. What initially appeared to be a technical irregularity quickly escalated into a full-scale security breach. Within hours, hundreds of millions of dollars worth of digital assets had been transferred out of the exchange's control. The compromised wallet was not a simple hot wallet exposed to the internet. It was a multi-signature wallet, a structure specifically designed to prevent unilateral access. In theory, no single party could move funds without approval from multiple independent signers. For WazirX, the setup required 4 signatures, 3 controlled internally by the exchange and 1 provided by an external custody service called Liminal. This architecture was meant to serve as a safeguard against both insider abuse and external attacks. According to the initial findings, the attackers did not brute force private keys or exploit a simple vulnerability. Instead, they targeted the operational layer surrounding the multi-signature system. Investigators later concluded that the attackers were able to create a fraudulent account on the WazirX platform itself. Through a sequence of carefully crafted transactions, they interacted with the wallet infrastructure in a way that appeared legitimate to the system. At the center of the breach was a malicious modification of the smart contract logic governing the multi-signature wallet. By altering how signatures were validated, the attackers effectively rewrote the rules that determined who could authorize transactions. Once the contract was compromised, the multi-signature protections became meaningless. Transactions that should have required multiple independent approvals could now be executed under the attacker's control. Blockchain data shows that shortly after this manipulation, funds began moving out in rapid succession. A wide range of assets were drained, including major cryptocurrencies and tokens held on behalf of users. The transfers were methodical rather than chaotic, suggesting prior planning rather than an opportunistic exploit. Within a short window, approximately $234.9 million in digital assets had been siphoned from the wallet and redistributed across multiple addresses. As the outflows continued, WazirX halted trading and withdrawals on the platform. Users attempting to access their accounts were met with notices stating that operations had been temporarily suspended due to a security incident. Behind the scenes, the exchange began coordinating with blockchain analytics firms to trace the stolen funds and identify potential laundering routes. Public statements from WazirX acknowledged the breach, but emphasized that the root cause was still under investigation. The exchange confirmed that the compromised wallet was linked to its multi-signature setup and stated that it was working closely with its custody partner. Liminal, in response, denied that its systems had been breached, asserting that its infrastructure remained secure and that the issue stemmed from how the wallet contracts were implemented. As news of the hack spread, the incident drew attention beyond India's crypto community. Analysts began dissecting the attack, focusing on the risks of complex, smart contract-based custody systems. Unlike traditional hacks that rely on stolen keys or malware, this breach demonstrated how governance logic itself could become an attack surface. Within days, the stolen assets started to move again, passing through decentralized exchanges and cross-chain bridges. Each transaction added another layer of complexity to recovery efforts. Law enforcement agencies were notified, but the pseudonymous nature of blockchain transactions limited immediate intervention. The financial impact on WazirX users remained uncertain. While the exchange explored potential recovery strategies, including asset tracing and legal action, confidence in the platform deteriorated rapidly. What began as a silent anomaly in a multi-signature wallet had evolved into one of the largest crypto thefts of 2024, raising fundamental questions about trust, custody, and the hidden vulnerabilities of systems designed to be secure. As investigators continued to analyze the blockchain trails, a clearer picture of the attacker's strategy began to emerge. The stolen assets were not moved randomly or in panic. Instead, transactions were staggered, routed through multiple intermediary addresses, and partially converted into different tokens. This behavior suggested an experienced group familiar with on-chain surveillance techniques and the typical responses of exchanges and analytics firms after a major breach. Several blockchain intelligence companies flagged the addresses involved and published preliminary reports. These reports showed that a portion of the funds had been routed through decentralized exchanges to reduce traceability, while other portions were bridged to different blockchains. Each bridge transfer created jurisdictional fragmentation, complicating coordination between regulators and law enforcement agencies across countries. As public pressure mounted, WazirX released additional disclosures confirming the full scale of the losses. The exchange stated that the affected wallet represented a significant portion of its custodial reserves and that user balances were directly impacted. While internal audits were ongoing, it became evident that the incident was not a simple third-party failure, but a systemic breakdown in how smart contract permissions were managed. Attention soon turned to the relationship between WazirX and its custody provider. Legal teams from both sides exchanged statements, each emphasizing limited responsibility. Liminal reiterated that its signing infrastructure had not been compromised and that no unauthorized signature had originated from its systems. This shifted focus back to the smart contract layer, where the attackers had altered the execution logic without triggering immediate alerts. Technical experts analyzing the contract changes noted that the exploit relied on subtle permission escalation rather than overt code injection. The modification blended into legitimate administrative operations, allowing it to bypass basic monitoring tools. This highlighted a critical weakness in many exchange security models, where smart contracts are assumed to be static and trusted once deployed. By late 2024, recovery prospects had dimmed. Although some funds were frozen when they reached centralized exchanges, the majority had already been dispersed. The fragmented asset flows made full restitution increasingly unlikely. Users began organizing online, demanding transparency and accountability, while regulators intensified scrutiny of crypto exchanges operating in the region. In January 2025, the case took a formal legal turn. A court in Singapore approved WazirX's request to convene meetings with creditors and affected users. The goal was to discuss restructuring options, potential compensation mechanisms, and the future of the platform. Court documents outlined the extent of liabilities and acknowledged that the hack had rendered the exchange insolvent under its existing structure. The proceedings marked a shift from incident response to damage control. Rather than focusing solely on tracing stolen funds, WazirX began evaluating long-term survival scenarios, including partial reimbursements and operational restructuring. For many users, this confirmed that the losses were not temporary disruptions, but permanent financial damage. The WazirX hack ultimately became a case study in modern crypto risk. It demonstrated how advanced custody architectures can fail not through brute force attacks, but through manipulation of trust assumptions embedded in code. The incident underscored that multi-signature wallets and smart contracts, while powerful, introduce new layers of complexity that can be exploited when governance, monitoring, and responsibility are not clearly defined. By the time legal processes replaced technical investigations, the attack had already left its mark. Funds were gone, trust was broken, and an exchange once considered a cornerstone of India's crypto ecosystem was forced into survival mode. The breach did not rely on novel cryptography or zero-day vulnerabilities. It relied on precision, patience, and a deep understanding of how secure systems are actually operated in practice.